What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and before we get into today's video, I'm going to give a massive thank you to the guys over at Lexus as well as Michelin. They brought me out to this event at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and I got to drive the LC500. I got to drift in an RC-F. I got to run the autocross in a GSF. It was an absolute blast, and number one thing that was actually, it was funny, the event, like everything in the event was pretty much running Michelin Pilot Supersport tires, and coming from already having run those on vehicles of my own before, I was super at home on that tire, and it did an amazing job as usual on the cars in the event. But before we go on any further with anything else, let's get right into the video that I wanted to talk about, and that is the fact that I am going to be comparing drifting an RC-F in real life versus drifting it in Forza Horizon 3. So, hope you guys stay tuned for the rest of the video, and I hope you all enjoy. Now, I need to go ahead and say right off the bat that this skid pad was quite challenging. Later on in the end, towards the end of the video, I'm going to include a few clips that you guys, I'm sure, will enjoy of basically me spinning out because I tried linking the figure 8 before I kind of had a total handle on what I was doing. So, and it was definitely an interesting thing to get used to because it's supposed to simulate ice, basically. And they do that with this really smooth surface combined with standing water, so it's really, really tricky to get grip. I mean, the Michelins were doing a pretty good job, but to be fair, it would have been a very difficult surface regardless because, like I said, it's just so slick out here. Now, the RC-F felt awesome going sideways. It was just, you didn't have to give it that much throttle at all. You just, like, give it a little blip, and it was sideways immediately. I think that was one of the main things that we had to get used to, actually, was the fact that, like, this thing had so much torque that you just had to give it a little tiny blip, and it was sideways. So, on a surface like this, that can actually, I mean, it can help you if it's something you're trying to do, but if you don't know, it can be something you need to watch out for. But in this kind of scenario, it was an absolute blast. So we're going to be comparing that to how it feels in Forza Horizon 3 on Blizzard Mountain's Ice Lake. Now, switching over from real life to virtual in Forza Horizon 3, we are on the Blizzard Mountain Ice Lake, and the main thing that you notice, obviously, right off the bat is the fact that you're not in control of an actual, like, physical object. I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious, but at the same time, it goes a long way when you compare, like, even no matter how much you practice on a simulator of whatever kind, you know, be it however realistic it may be, however crazy your wheel setup may be, when you get into a real car, it's always going to be a little bit different because you realize you're in control of an actual vehicle, and there's actual mass behind it, there's actual force behind it, and you have to really get used to that in order to get that technique down. And plus, when it's actually moving around underneath you and you can feel that through the seat, that's one of the biggest things that communicates to you. I mean, a lot of people think that you get all the communication through the steering wheel, and you get some of it through the steering wheel, but you get a lot of it through the seat of your pants. And that's one of the biggest things that you won't get in a simulator, no matter how crazy your simulation setup is. Now, I mean, to be fair, if you have some sort of like crazy VRX motion rig, then yeah, you may get that feedback. But at the same time, 99% of people that have simulators, even 99% of the people that have like a full rig setup, are not going to be motion rigs. So, for the most part, that is the biggest difference in feel, is basically the movement of the mass of the car and feeling all of the different forces working with you. And by the way, I will say that while I was sitting in line to go down the hill to the skid pad, I did notice that if you brake just a little tiny bit harder than normal when you're going, like, you know, less than 1 mile an hour, or 1 mile an hour, you will actually make the little G meter jump from basically 0.0 to 0.1 and then back down again. And I did that far too many times because I think I got way, way, way too amused by it because I kept doing it over and over and over again. But I will say, something that's very, very interesting is that the sound of the RC-F in real life and in Horizon 3 is so close, it's incredible. It really, actually, it sounded like I was back in the real car. That's the cool part, is it sounded like I was right back in the real car, right there on the skid pad, and just, you know, just going for it. So that was kind of an interesting realization to me. Was like, wow, these sounds are really, really close. Now, also, too, I want to say something else about when I was drifting the real car around on the skid pad. Even though that surface was incredibly slick, I will say the Michelin Pilot Supersports did an incredible job out there, especially with the standing water. They felt like they had amazing grip. They felt like they had some really, really incredible grip in the standing water. So that, combined with the dry performance that they had, gives me a whole new respect for that tire. And, I mean, I've run, like I said before, I've run Pilot Supersports on various cars that I've owned before, but I've never tested them in a skid pad, like a wetted skid pad environment. And I think that if I was to run them again, that I would definitely have a little bit more confidence in standing water now, knowing what I know from the skid pad with those tires. They definitely impressed me out there, and I think I would definitely recommend them more than I would before in terms of wet grip, for sure. Now, we're going to go back to real life in just a minute, but I think what the last thing that I want to close out with is that no matter how much you practice, quote-unquote, drifting in a game, it's definitely something that you're going to have to practice it in real life before just transferring it over. It doesn't just convert over to real life like boom, boom. You actually have to practice it and build up to it, and then once you build up to how to catch a car, that's when you really start to feel in tune with how it actually feels going sideways. See how this goes. Got to be a little bit careful on the transition, but I think we can get it.
So once you're done your third run, just pull the car off and hop out. Nice and easy. Here we go, eyes up. Where you want the car to go. Keep sliding it, feel it. Let the car come around. No gas. Let it come around. Now some gas. You just kind of brought the counterweight when it came back the other way, and you kind of snapped it a little bit too hard. It's so hard to find that angle. Nice and easy. Let it come around now. A little bit of gas. There we go. Nice and smooth. Drop your eyes. You got to start looking to the left a little sooner.
Now, I know some of you guys are probably just here to see my spins, so that's what I'm going to show you guys right here. Now, this run was actually going really, really well. I just didn't transfer the weight properly, and you can see how sensitive it can be when you don't do it properly, and then you just swing it all the way around and end up backwards. So that's one of the reasons why you have to be so delicate with this kind of stuff. You have to be so delicate with your fingertips, because the feeling is so important. And really, that's what I'm talking about when I say the feeling comes from the seat of your pants, not necessarily just from the steering wheel. Because once I realized that was when I started having those runs that you guys saw earlier on in the video, where I was able to catch it and transition it no problem, as opposed to here where I would get almost completely there and then I would spin. So it's kind of a weird balance. It's definitely a weird balance of how it ends up working. And this run actually went pretty well until the transition. I swung it around with too much force, and it just ended up backwards. So again, you have to be aware. You always have to be aware when you're doing this stuff of where exactly the car is and how it feels from every angle, not just the steering wheel, because the angle of the steering wheel can be the same, but the angle of the car and the position of the car can be different. So this is what it looks like when you're really learning the surface and learning the car, getting used to everything. But I wanted to show you guys that because, you know, I'm not some sort of like perfect driver or anything like that. Like I really had to work on this and get it down and learn it before I got it. But again, I want to say a massive thanks to Lexus and Michelin for having me out here at Atlanta Motorsports Park for this event. I have more content that you guys are going to be seeing soon. Hope you all did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time. Talk to y'all later.